Blessings, grace and peace to you. Welcome to Taught by the Spirit of the Word. I am Fellowman, and I was taught by the Spirit of the Word. His message of love, grace, and peace is mine also to you.
Hence why I call all of you this time around. In the Old Covenant, only certain people were the priests that had access to God. But in the New Covenant, each and every one of you are priests and kings. Priests to come to God and talk with Him for yourself and hear from Him for yourself. And kings to govern yourselves, meaning yourself, not other people, rightly in the earth. So because Eve didn't stop and think of what's going on, who's talking to her, what is actually talking to her, but continue a conversation with a reptile and not a human being or the Spirit of God in her, she opened up the door to be deceived even further, to let the deception that Satan is instigating be cemented and became a thing in their lives forever, until Jesus came 2,000 years ago and rendered it null and void, broke the chains and the bonds of Satan over our lives. No longer slave to sin and darkness and evil. No longer have to listen to snakes. No longer have to be governed by people who don't know God. But now you are able to govern yourself. Talk to God for yourself. Hear what He's saying and then do as He says. And have a peace in your heart that surpasses all understanding about your way forward. So now we see Satan was able to continue the conversation. He said, "You will not certainly die," the serpent said to the woman. "For God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." He's now running game on her and she don't even know it. Stopping and having a conversation with negative thoughts in your head that might want to come from time to time. Having a conversation with people in the world that aren't living their lives according to the standards that God set for us to live amongst ourselves. With these principles in mind, love God and love your neighbors as yourself. Do unto others as you would like done unto you, and so on and so forth. If we keep doing those things. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you don't talk with people, but you have to know where the conversation is going and when to stop it and say, hey, that's not who we are. That's not who I am. I don't agree with that. You know, it's sad that I was a preview to being in a meeting where a leader said to us, what we do here is all form and ritual. And the Spirit of God was telling me this over and over again. And I was telling my wife, God is telling me what we're doing here at His churches is all form and ritual. He didn't just mean where I was going. He was talking period. And I'm sharing this with her for maybe a good 8 months repeatedly, telling her. Because I could see it too. And here it is, I'm at a meeting. And here they say it out clear. For the most part, what we do here is all form and ritual. And my wife hit me. And I look around to see who understand what they just heard. And no one bat an eye. I was the only one who was traumatized by what I just heard. And I brought it up to a few of them. And it was like, huh? It didn't even register. Then another time, in another meeting, another person saying that if you read the scriptures all day, it will drive you crazy. And again I look around to see who agree with this stuff. Anyone who in the scriptures all day, the scriptures would drive you crazy. And again, I looking around to see who's going to agree with me that this person is wrong. And I was alone again. Fellowman, brothers and sisters, we ought to let the Spirit of God be your teacher and your guide, like the head of the church, Jesus said. The head of the church said to his disciples, it is more beneficial that I go so that I could send the Spirit of God back to you. It is more beneficial that I leave you all so that the Spirit of God could come. Fellas, it is more beneficial that I go, Jesus, to the Father so that the Spirit of God could come. It is more beneficial for you that I go so that the Spirit of God could come, because this is the original relationship human beings had with God that was broken. And Jesus' assignment was to come and return things back in our lives and in the earth the way it was before the fall of mankind. Fellowman, I'm sharing these things with you from the depths of my heart because the Spirit of God told me it's time to do so. It's a part of the preparation of Him wrapping things up in the earth. So Eve conversating with the devil, with a snake, let's call it what it is. She didn't know it was the devil. She was talking to a snake. A snake. Think of it. The most you should be talking to an animal and saying is fetch, sit, go, get back in the house. How in the world you sitting down conversating with a snake like if it's a human being or it's God? When God told you He created you in His image and in His likeness to govern yourself and to govern and have dominion over all the creatures on the earth except other human beings. But because she did not take into consideration that it's a snake that you're talking to, it's a snake. It's a snake. You know, a snake. Not somebody that looks like you in the form of a human being. Not the Spirit of God that's with you, but a snake. Something that should be obvious because you didn't take the obvious seriously. They wound up deceived. So the devil now can say the opposite of what Jesus told them. You will not die, the serpent said to the woman. Anytime anyone is telling you the opposite of what Jesus said or what God said, and even now what the Spirit of God is saying to you personally, it's time to go into ignore mode. And then when they want to go so far that they want to hurt you, like what was about to happen to the disciples and Paul and these guys in the Bible, and the Holy Spirit warned them that this is what they have planned for you. Paul had to die the way he died, and this is what the church haven't understood, and we're preaching the negative side of it. The disciples didn't have to die the way they died. They did not use wisdom. God warned Paul ahead of time. This is what these people have planned for you. And Paul said, come on now, stop crying. You're breaking my heart. I'm ready to go and die for the Lord if I have to. And all the disciples had this kind of mentality. And one of the reasons for this mentality is guilt and the mentality of the region. And not only the region, the world, that even up to this day, nothing really changes unless some calamity happens. Or somebody have to die first before a law's passed. So if this person didn't die, the law wouldn't pass. People have to lose their lives. Jesus told us He laid down His life so that we don't have to. He died that we might live. That's the spirit of the scriptures, the spirit of the word.
Once more as you go, I want to remind you, I am not your teacher. The Holy Spirit within you is. Why am I saying this so often? Because I don't want you to continue making the same mistakes, being led by men and not the Spirit of God within you. This is why I'm encouraging you to pursue getting to know the Spirit of God within you with the same intensity you do going after a soulmate or your career. And the Holy Spirit of God, who sees your heart, He can tell if we are serious or committed to knowing Him. Let's put ourselves in His shoe for a moment, and we would see how God has to be longing to have a relationship with His children, who He created in His image and in His likeness. Please, don't let us delay any longer. Fellowman, I know the Spirit of the Word have blessed you. So kindly like, share, and subscribe to our podcast by the name Fellowman. God bless you.